I once risked everything just to prove one ridiculous theory, that dating a billionaire could completely change your life. So my brother convinced me to drop out of school and become a professional trophy boyfriend. He targeted the hottest idol in the entertainment industry, while I aimed even higher. I somehow ended up dating the daughter of the richest family in the country. Less than a year later, our wallets were overflowing. And life became nothing but luxury, peace, and easy money. Then one morning, I saw the headline announcing her engagement. The groom wasn't that
Me.
Same night, my brother kicked my bedroom door open. "You've farmed enough gold, right?" I hugged my little piggy bank and checked our emergency stash. "Not enough, but yours will do." So we packed everything we owned and vanished before anyone noticed. 2 years later, my brother got cornered in a crowded market by the idol queen herself. Meanwhile, I stayed hidden in the corner, enjoying the free drama. Then somebody smacked the back of my head. I looked up, and my billionaire fiancé was staring straight into my soul without a hint of emotion. "So, you ran away, and even stole my dog. Bring both fugitives back." A few years earlier, I was hanging out at my brother's apartment, helping him scroll through birthday gifts on his tablet. Suddenly, the front door unlocked downstairs. My brother instantly threw the tablet aside. "Hide, right now. She doesn't like seeing anyone else here." I squeezed my 6-foot frame into the tiniest hiding spot imaginable. Under the bed, the guy who'd been joking around seconds ago instantly transformed into an innocent little angel. He rushed forward with open arms. "Welcome home." The idol queen looked annoyed. She pushed him away. "You did this, didn't you?" My childhood friend's secret about being an illegitimate son just leaked. His gallery just opened. This scandal could destroy everything. If you're angry, take it out on me. Why drag him into this? "You seriously suspect me?" The idol queen slammed her glass onto the table. "You visited his gallery?" And right after that, the secret exploded online. My brother opened his mouth to explain, but her assistant walked in first. "We can't reach Mr. Yi." She quietly placed her glass back down. Then she shot him. The coldest glare I'd ever seen. "I swear, it wasn't me." She laughed. "A week ago, you were already upset because I supported his gallery. You've been jealous. If not you, then who?" Tears slowly rolled down his face. "Can't we talk tomorrow? Today's supposed to be..." "Enough! Stop talking!" "I never thought you were this kind of person." She didn't even look back before slamming the door behind her. "Did you ever love me? Even a little?" My brother chased after her. His voice echoed down the hallway. Her heels stopped for just a few seconds. No answer. Only the sound of her car driving away. He wiped his nose and tossed the tablet aside. Then collapsed onto the bed. "Well, at least I don't have to buy that birthday gift anymore." I crawled out from under the bed. I gave him a thumbs up. "Bro!" Oscar-worthy performance. "I almost believed you actually fell for her." He kicked me in the leg. "That childhood friend belongs to your billionaire." "I'm not scared of him." "We should just grab the cash and disappear." He stared at me with deadly seriousness. "Remember that gallery last week?" He actually made me choose between the two of them. I called him shameless. And today, he fired back. He's the idol queen's first love. And your fiancé's childhood friend. Knowing your fiancé. If we offend her precious favorite. We're absolutely cooked. I jumped to my feet without another word. I shoved my shoes on. All right, you win. Let's figure out exactly how much money we can steal from ourselves before we disappear again. Move, right now. We disappear before it's too late. My brother and I were twins. He majored in acting at college. I studied economics. He became nothing more than the idol queen's convenient stand-in boyfriend. He spent months chasing auditions until she personally picked him up and took him away. Meanwhile, I became the billionaire heiress's substitute boyfriend. Right after graduation, I went to a job interview. Instead, she intercepted me in an underground parking garage. The two of us grew up in the same orphanage. The only reason we hit the jackpot was because we happened to look like someone else. That person was the childhood friend. For 3 years, we lived without worrying about money. The idol queen ruled the entertainment industry. Her reputation meant absolutely everything to her. But my billionaire was completely different. She was the only daughter of the richest family alive. Beautiful, dangerous, and terrifying when angry. I honestly thought this easy life would last forever. Then, everything changed. The childhood friend who once rejected the idol queen's support finally came back. Reality overseas had beaten him into the ground. Now he had no intention of struggling anymore. He wanted to choose between the idol queen and the billionaire heiress. One choice, and he'd never have to work another day in his life. Back at the gallery, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "One snap of my fingers, and she'll give me everything. And getting rid of you? That's effortless." Honestly, being dumped wasn't what scared me. The problem was my billionaire. What if she decided to throw both of us into the river? Then I remembered how she'd once turned a man's bungee jump into lifelong trauma. Just thinking about it made me shiver. A guy had mocked me for living off a rich woman. She had him dragged over, tied him to a rope over the river, and called it bungee jumping. The next day, the poor idiot checked himself into a psychiatric hospital. And I was only a substitute. If the childhood friend decided to target me next, would I even make it out alive? After all, he was her real childhood love. Nope, we're leaving. Right now. No hesitation. Once my brother and I settled on the plan, we split up to empty every bank account we had before disappearing for good. I had almost finished packing my luggage when someone suddenly walked through the front door. Before I could react, she threw herself into my arms. Her lips brushed against my ear. "Heading somewhere this late at night?" She smelled strongly of alcohol. She was definitely tipsy, even after 4 years together. I still hated seeing her drink. But getting angry at her? Yeah, I didn't have that kind of courage. I was actually about to look for you. She narrowed her eyes with a playful smile and leaned deeper into my chest. Then she casually kicked the door shut behind her. "So, what do you want to see me wear tonight?" My heart nearly stopped. "Honestly, you look amazing in everything." Her mother had died young, and her father never stopped bringing different women home. She grew up believing every man would eventually betray her, until one day she ran away from home. A little boy gently wiped away her tears. She once told me that he was the first person who had ever comforted her. Deep down, I knew that boy was probably the childhood friend. But tonight, she was acting unusually affectionate. The moment I sat down, she climbed onto my lap with a grin. Then she slowly reached for the zipper of her dress. My brother and I were never the same. He's an artist. He believes love is all about emotional connection. Me? I've always been far more realistic. But after everything that happened that night, She rested quietly on my arm, and I gently stroked her hair. Without thinking, I whispered, "Do you actually love me?" She froze. In the darkness, I watched her eyes drift toward the ceiling. A few seconds later, she simply closed them. The only answer I received was the slow rhythm of her breathing. You can never wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. So tell me, what am I to you, really? I rolled over and kissed her anyway, one arm wrapped tightly around her waist, while the other reached for the pajamas she had just put back on. Before I could do anything, she coldly pushed me away. She stood up. "You should get some rest. I'm sleeping upstairs tonight." The woman who had been whispering sweetly into my ear just moments ago now felt like a complete stranger. Was our relationship really destined to stay hidden forever? I didn't want to keep living like this. So I finally said it. "Then leave. Break up with me." The billionaire heiress barely glanced at me. I couldn't say a word. I just stared at her. "I don't exactly have a shortage of men." She dropped those words without the slightest hesitation. Then she walked upstairs, leaving me completely alone. So that's all I was to her. A broke substitute who happened to resemble her childhood friend, a man who could never exist in the light. At least I knew my place. People like me never even qualified to enter a billionaire's marriage. And yet, I still foolishly asked whether she loved me. I wiped away the tears gathering in my eyes, then forced myself to breathe. Just then, her little dog jumped onto my bed. It stared at me with those innocent eyes, almost like it actually pitied me. Duo was a stray puppy she had rescued years ago. But I was the one who raised him. There was no way I was leaving him behind. So I grabbed my suitcase with one hand, held Duo in the other, and quietly slipped downstairs. The moment I got outside, I texted my brother. "I'm out. Meet me in 30 minutes. Flying with a dog wasn't happening. So the bus it was. 30 minutes later, we met at the bus station. My brother looked at me carrying a suitcase and a dog, and nearly exploded. Personally, I didn't see the problem. He was the one dragging 3 giant suitcases behind him. It looked like he was fleeing a war zone. I couldn't help asking, "What on earth did you pack?" I got dumped. She told me to erase every trace of myself from her world. So I literally packed everything. "Did you seriously bring a broom?" I bought the broom. I went completely silent. Fair enough. I got dumped too. She said she never runs out of men. My brother patted my shoulder. That look said everything. 2 miserable losers. We loaded every suitcase into the bus, then hugged the dog and squeezed into the smelly old coach. Without looking back, we quietly disappeared from the city. Meanwhile, the Idol Queen's phone wouldn't stop ringing as partners canceled one contract after another. Public opinion tore the childhood friend apart, and his gallery was completely vandalized. She had no choice but to bring him back to her own house. Unfortunately, paparazzi caught everything and published a story overnight. Then, my brother suddenly disappeared. He had run away from home. The paparazzi she investigated all insisted my brother was the one who leaked the tip. Her assistant hesitated. "Miss..." He even took every single thing that belonged to him. "Should we?" the assistant asked quietly. "Forget him. Let him leave if that's what he wants." Just then, the childhood friend walked in with a bandaged forehead. "Thank you for helping me. But you should really go after him. I don't want to ruin your relationship because of me. I'd never forgive myself." His eyes looked empty, and his guilty expression made him look heartbreakingly sincere. To her, it only confirmed one thing. My brother had crossed the line. "Do you know who leaked your secret?" He lowered his head. "The last time we met!" He told me not to feel inferior because I was only poor. While I was an unwanted, illegitimate child, maybe someone overheard us. The idol queen's heart immediately sank. "What do you mean, someone overheard?" The paparazzi he tracked down had all pointed the finger at my brother. At first, she refused to believe it. But after hearing the childhood friend's explanation, the last bit of hope she had completely shattered. The childhood friend quietly studied the look on the idol queen's face. Then he slowly stood up. "You should go find him." After only 2 steps, he deliberately staggered as if he were about to collapse. The idol queen immediately rushed over to support him. "Forget him. He can go wherever he wants." "How are you feeling?" At that exact moment, the red beam of a camera flashed through the window. Years in the entertainment industry had sharpened her instincts. She recognized a paparazzi camera the instant she saw it. The childhood friend acted like he had lost all strength, then conveniently collapsed onto her shoulder. "I'm sorry." "It's fine. I'll take care of everything. Just focus on recovering." Her voice softened. She gently patted him on the shoulder. Only minutes later, the internet exploded with breaking news. The nation's top actress embraces an illegitimate heir late at night. One-night stand or secret romance? Every media outlet flooded the internet with the story. News alerts poured into my brother's phone. He quietly let out a long sigh. His hands trembled in the darkness. He removed his SIM card, snapped it clean in half, and tossed it out the bus window. My own phone stayed completely silent. Maybe it was time to stop looking back. So I copied him. I threw my SIM card out the window too. Right then, Duo chewed through the window handle. Now the window wouldn't close. As my brother struggled with it, he glared at both me and the dog with pure hatred. Wind and dust blasted straight into our faces. At that point, I couldn't even tell whether the water on my face was tears or rain. And just like that, the 2 of us took turns carrying the dog and dragging our luggage. When we finally got off, every bank card we owned had been frozen, so we had to survive on almost nothing. We hitchhiked on random 3-wheelers until we reached a tiny, remote town. By the time we arrived, my brother's hair looked like a bird's nest. My face was covered in dirt. We honestly looked like 2 homeless scavengers. Neither of us realized how brutally cold the days ahead were about to become. First, the idol queen froze my brother's bank cards. Then my billionaire heiress froze mine. Both of them thought we were just throwing a tantrum. The idol queen even assumed my brother was hiding at my place. She stormed over to my billionaire's villa, demanding he come out. That's when she discovered I had vanished too. My billionaire completely lost it. She pulled surveillance footage from everywhere. Eventually, she tracked us to the long-distance bus. "Where are they now?" The investigators stood there shaking. They probably ran out of money and switched to 3-wheelers. After that, we lost them. She kicked the coffee table across the room. "You don't know? Then keep looking." Do I have to teach you everything? The idol queen tried to calm her down. It's already been 48 hours. If the 2 of them truly don't want to be found. Before she could finish, my billionaire smashed a glass onto the floor. Yours is hiding because of you. Mine has no reason to run. I don't believe it. He would never hide from me. Those words hit the idol queen exactly where it hurts. Her face turned pale. Your guy disappeared because he followed mine. If I don't find him, don't expect to sleep peacefully either. I'll erase your entire career. Even the idol queen's assistant took a nervous step backward. The room fell silent. The billionaire heiress and the idol queen were nothing alike. One had spent years mastering the entertainment industry. She cared deeply about appearances and public opinion. Whether that image was genuine or fake didn't even matter. Maintaining elegance was everything. My billionaire, on the other hand, never needed anyone's approval. Her family already ruled the city. The crazy beauty ruled both the legal world and the underground. She hated her old man more than anyone I'd ever met. The irony? He spent his whole life chasing women and eventually lost the ability to have another child. Whether he loved his daughter or not didn't even matter anymore. She was the only heir he had left. But the crazy beauty wasn't the type to bow her head. She was absolutely unhinged. She'd bite the hand that raised her without hesitation. When she wanted to tank her father's company, she leaked every dirty scandal he had. No mercy, no breaks, absolute Sigma energy. When she threatened to destroy someone, everyone knew she wasn't bluffing. The Ice Queen CEO let out a long sigh. Then she turned toward her assistant. Search every surveillance camera again. For days. Every security recording, big or small, was checked over and over. Even every bus driver was questioned one by one. Yet nobody could figure out where my brother and I had disappeared. Eventually, the Ice Queen CEO had to return to the film set first. If she stayed away any longer, the contract penalties alone would have emptied her wallet. Meanwhile, the crazy beauty completely abandoned her old nightlife. She practically lived inside the surveillance room. She replayed the footage of my brother and me boarding that bus. Again and again, crying while talking to herself. You heartless jerk! You really left? And you took my favorite idiot with you. She wiped away her tears and forced herself to smile. Just wait until I find you. I'm breaking your legs. Then I'm making sure you never run again. We'll see where you think you can escape after that. How the Ice Queen CEO and the crazy beauty reacted was something my brother and I never witnessed ourselves. At the time, I had completely vanished from their world. The Ice Queen CEO still had social media. Mine was gone. I threw away my SIM card and deleted every account. On top of that, Phoenix Town sat deep inside the mountains. Power outages happened all the time. If we wanted a signal, we had to hike to a specific spot. Yeah, literal offline mode. Honestly, the biggest reason we came here was because we were completely broke. But the little money we still had could make us feel rich in this tiny town. Just like my brother joked, better to be the king of a small village than an NPC in a giant city. We rented a small inn beside the river in Phoenix Town. A tavern occupied the first floor. The guest rooms were upstairs. And at that very moment, I was hanging out with a group of beautiful tourists visiting the town. The innkeeper's daughter walked over carrying a platter of fresh fruit and joined our table. One of the girls suddenly asked, "Doesn't she kind of look like the crazy beauty?" I nearly choked the moment I heard that. I immediately took a huge gulp of juice just to hide my reaction. Come on, sis! Can you say literally anything else? Later, when I walked into the restroom, I stared at the reflection in the mirror. It almost didn't feel like me anymore. Nearly 2 years had passed. The crazy beauty always hated seeing me with a beard, even if it was only a little stubble. I'd shave it off immediately because of her. The memory hit me hard. My chest tightened. So I hurried back outside before I lost control. Phoenix Town might have been isolated, but news from the outside world still found its way here. Especially when it involved someone as famous as the Ice Queen CEO. She remained one of the hottest topics everyone talked about. For the past 2 years, headlines about her never stopped. She publicly announced that she was already married. Then she created a scholarship fund for underprivileged acting students. She wanted talented dreamers to keep chasing the stage instead of giving up. The media also caught her drinking alone deep into the night. And paparazzi even claimed she'd been partying with male models. According to the rumors, she spent ridiculous amounts of money on them. As for the crazy beauty, she disappeared completely. The only news anyone could dig up about her was that her father had remarried, and now she had a younger brother. "Hey, handsome, what are you daydreaming about?" "It's your turn to drink." The gorgeous girl across from me grinned and shook the dice cup. I raised my glass of juice and finished it in one shot. Then someone suggested we raise the stakes. Whoever lost the next round would have to kiss one person chosen by everyone else. I immediately backed away. "Nope, I'm out. Not happening." "What if one of you falls for me afterward?" "That's way too much responsibility." The entire table burst into laughter. Meanwhile, my brother was having the time of his life. "Come on, every single one of you gets a sip with me. Let's make this party legendary." I glanced over at my brother, and Shameless didn't even begin to describe him. Who needs pride anyway? "If there's a drink today, I'm getting wasted today." The next second, he was already laughing and partying with everyone in the tavern. One of the regulars was a girl everyone called the Heartbroken Traveler. She had quit her job after a brutal breakup and had been hiding out in Phoenix Town for over 2 months. Every single night, she'd end up in this tavern. She was gorgeous, but compared to the Ice Queen CEO, it wasn't even close. My brother didn't care about comparisons, though. They were hanging out so often they even grabbed breakfast together every morning. Whenever she drank too much at night, he always walked her home. She started out staying at a guest house, then ended up renting a place nearby. Judging from the way things were going, their relationship was only one step away from becoming something real. Then my brother lost the next round of the drinking game. "So, do you like her or not?" Everyone had already noticed the chemistry. They asked on purpose. "I like every beautiful girl," he answered without missing a beat. After 6 months in Phoenix Town, he had changed completely. The quiet house husband I'd known was gone. Now he acted like a carefree drifter who flirted with everyone. He had even picked up smoking, and somehow, girls absolutely loved that vibe. "Don't tease us like that!" The Heartbroken Traveler covered her blushing face. Her voice turned soft and sweet. She couldn't stop looking at my brother. Fine. No more questions. But since you lost, kiss her instead." Every girl at the table joined in immediately. "Kiss her! Kiss her!" The Heartbroken Traveler actually closed her eyes and waited. The whole room went silent. Even I picked up my camera, ready to witness the chaos. But my brother suddenly froze. His eyes locked onto someone standing outside the tavern. His fingers tightened around the glass. The veins on his hand practically popped out. I instinctively followed his line of sight. A chill shot straight down my spine. A woman wearing a face mask, with long wavy hair flowing to her waist. Tall, elegant, sharp-eyed. It was none other than the Ice Queen CEO. The lights outside were dim. Nobody else noticed anything strange. They kept egging him on. "Come on, we're all adults. Don't chicken out now." My brother calmly looked away, then turned back toward the Heartbroken Traveler. He suddenly pulled her into his arms. She let out a startled yelp. At that exact moment, the woman at the entrance hurled her handbag across the room. It smacked my brother square in the forehead. "Try kissing her. I dare you. I'll make sure she disappears from your life tomorrow." "Who are you?" The Heartbroken Traveler instinctively hid behind my brother. She glared back defensively. "Who am I?" "Ask him exactly who I am." The Ice Queen CEO never took her eyes off my brother. I was nothing more than a tool to him. When he was tired, I became his shoulder. When he was bored, I kept him company. When he was hungry, I cooked. And whenever he wanted me, I stayed by his side. But once he didn't need me anymore, he abandoned me without looking back. My brother slowly exhaled a ring of smoke, looking exactly like the final boss of every toxic boyfriend compilation. The heartbroken traveler froze. Disappointment flashed across her eyes. But she quickly forced herself to smile again. So, she's just your past. Everyone has a past. And who hasn't fallen for a walking red flag before? I don't care. The moment she said it, she leaned in, trying to kiss my brother herself. Oh, you really want to kiss him? The Ice Queen CEO completely dropped her graceful public persona. She grabbed the plate filled with braised duck feet and shoved it straight into the girl's face. Oil smeared all over her lips and cheeks. Before anyone could even react, the Ice Queen CEO grabbed my brother's wrist and dragged him outside. You're coming with me. My brother broke free and sprinted toward the truck parked outside. The headlights suddenly flashed on. For the first time, she panicked. My brother didn't waste a single second. He snatched the keys to the electric cargo trike parked behind the tavern and tossed them straight at me. Catch! You didn't see anything! He didn't have to explain. I already knew exactly who he had seen. I grabbed my bag from the counter and bolted out the back door. I was running way too fast and crashed straight into the table where we'd been drinking moments earlier. Bottles exploded across the floor with a deafening crash. Every single person instantly switched into spectator mode. I even knocked over the fruit platter, sending it flying onto the heartbroken traveler. Apples, strawberries, watermelon. She was covered in fruit from head to toe. Sorry, seriously, I'm so sorry. Tonight's on the house! I shouted at the top of my lungs. Then I jumped onto the electric trike we used for deliveries. Luckily, I hadn't started drinking yet. At least I could still drive. I twisted the throttle as hard as I could. The tiny engine roared through the silent night. Way too loud. I immediately regretted it. Not only was it painfully slow, the road was pitch black. I couldn't even see the rocks in front of me. The trike bounced violently over the dirt road. And before anyone could catch me, I launched myself straight into a ditch. I didn't even check whether my backpack was still with me. I scrambled back to my feet and tried to keep running. The instant I climbed out of the ditch, dozens of phone flashlights blinded me. Standing in the middle of the mall was a woman in designer casual clothes, casually chewing bubblegum. Who else could it be? Except the crazy beauty herself? She looked me up and down, covered in mud, then smacked me right on the head. So, you ran away? And you even stole my favorite idiot with you? And judging by this performance, you are planning to keep running. Grab him! We're taking him home! The moment she gave the order, her bodyguards lifted me off the ground like I weighed nothing. I was covered in weeds, my head spinning from the crash. Just like that, I was carried all the way back to the crazy beauty's territory in Phoenix Town. On the way, I drifted into a dream. I dreamed about the very first day we met. She had been interviewing me for a job. The first thing she asked was, "Do you remember me?" Of course, I said no. She simply smiled. No interview necessary. I want this one. I thought she meant hiring me. Instead, she pulled me into her car in the parking garage and completely changed my life. The very next day, every cent of my tuition was paid off. On the third day, the orphanage where my brother and I grew up received an enormous donation. The donor's name was listed as mine. By the fourth day, everyone who had bullied me came to apologize. On the fifth day, she brought me to her villa. Then she quietly said, "Move in." Looking at that doll-like face, I nodded. Over the next 4 years, I discovered the terrifying personality hidden behind that beautiful face. She was unpredictable, explosive, impossible to read. Everyone feared making her angry. I was different. I feared seeing her unhappy. I learned exactly what could make her smile. I knew she hated beards on men. I knew her favorite foods and how to calm her down. And she knew every little thing about me too. She knew alcohol didn't agree with me, so she rarely came home drunk anymore. She knew I'd never really traveled. Whenever she had free time, she'd take me somewhere new. Whether it was overseas or somewhere nearby, if I showed the slightest interest, she'd make it happen. She even did something she'd hated her entire life just to make me happy. She put on a dress. Those dresses reminded her of the women her father brought home after her mother was gone. The first time I saw her wearing one, I almost cried. "Will you marry me?" Everything you've ever given me, I've invested. It's worth well over 10 million now. I never touched the money sitting in your bank card. If that's still not enough, I'll marry into your family. I don't care what anyone says about me. Then I woke up. Every warm memory from that dream shattered into pieces. Someone had already cleaned every trace of dirt off my body. I was wearing the same pajamas as before. A matching set with a crazy beauty. She sat beside the bed with Dodo in her arms, staring at me without blinking. A fruit knife slowly peeled an apple in her hand. The room suddenly felt freezing cold. I hurriedly sat upright. For 2 whole years. I still can't understand it. You even took Dodo with you. So why was I the one you abandoned? Her eyes gradually turned red. I couldn't bear watching her cry. I immediately tried to get out of bed. Trying to run again? "I'll break both your legs and feed them to the dogs." My knees instantly gave out and I sat right back down. Still wearing her pajamas, the crazy beauty wrapped her arms around me. "I have already investigated everything. You never found anyone else in Phoenix Town?" She moved closer with the confidence of someone who knew me too well. I wanted to resist, but my body completely betrayed me. She knew every weakness I had. It had simply been too long. And my resolve collapsed within minutes. Yeah, I got absolutely folded. I felt embarrassed. I turned around to get dressed. She immediately climbed back onto me before I even finished. The entire night became chaos. I didn't wake up until noon the next day. The first thing I did after opening my eyes was rush to shave my beard. When I realized she wasn't in the room, I quickly got dressed, ready to make another escape. Downstairs, the crazy beauty was calmly making breakfast. The table looked exactly like the day we first met. Perfect fried eggs, mung bean porridge, and several homemade side dishes. Dodo wagged his tail excitedly at her feet. Drool was practically flooding the floor. "Come eat." She quietly pointed at the chair across from her. I took a sip of porridge. Before I could ask anything, she already knew what I wanted. "Finish eating. I'll take you to him." After breakfast, she brought Dodo and me straight back to the inn. The Ice Queen CEO was standing quietly outside the tavern. Every trace of last night's chaos had already been cleaned up. My brother sat alone inside. Neither of them moved. The silence between them felt heavier than any argument. I took a few steps toward my brother. But the crazy beauty grabbed me. "Stay right here. You're not leaving my side again." Her grip tightened around my hand. The Ice Queen CEO hesitated for a long time before finally stepping into the doorway. Her voice trembled as she spoke. The fake prince is gone. He'll never come between us again. I only learned the truth last night. After we left Harbor City, the crazy beauty completely snapped. She hunted down the paparazzo who exposed that fake scandal. She caught him and forced out the truth. The fake prince had paid him to frame my brother. Then she sent people overseas to dig into every secret he had. Nothing stayed buried. The man who once rejected the Ice Queen CEO had actually been cycling through wealthy lovers for years. One after another. His victims ranged from women in their 20s all the way to their 60s. He stole both their hearts and their money. Back then, he didn't reject the Ice Queen CEO because of love. He rejected her because she was nothing more than an unknown actress. Her money simply wasn't enough to impress him. The crazy beauty had him beaten. She destroyed his art gallery. Then she exposed every filthy secret he had. Before long, enemies came after him from every direction, with both arms shattered. His career as an artist was over. In the end, he sold everything he owned, just to buy a one-way plane ticket. What he didn't know was someone he had scammed was already waiting for him at the airport. If he was lucky enough to survive this, then, for the rest of his life, he would never dare get close to these two women again. That guy, Ichwan, was nothing but a clown. He was never my childhood sweetheart. The little boy who once handed me tissues to wipe my tears, who told me he was an orphan, but promised he would still live a good life. Had a mole on the back of his left hand. I only used him as a shield to block unwanted attention. After all, he had chased after me for a long time back then. I looked at the mole on his hand. And it was only last night that I finally understood why, when we first met, he asked me if I still remembered him. The one who forgot wasn't me. And Lu Ruoyan wasn't Qinghai either. Everyone's feelings might share similar moments, but they can never be exactly the same. Liu Ruoyan kept me by her side because I looked like Yi Cheng. But as time passed, she unknowingly fell in love with the person I actually was. When Yi Cheng returned, everything she once failed to obtain began stirring inside her heart. That was why she made Yi Cheng suffer. In the end, it was all caused by human greed. People always fail to cherish what is right beside them, and instead keep chasing after the impossible things from the past. I lowered my head and kept wiping the cups on the counter, but I showed absolutely no reaction. Bai Ningbing came out from the kitchen carrying another pile of cups. She placed them down and went back inside. When Li Ruoyan saw Bai Ningbing, her anger instantly exploded. "Why is that woman here? You actually came here? How shameless!" This was the first time I saw Lu Ruoyan lose control. She looked like an unreasonable woman. She shouted toward Bai Ningbing in the kitchen. I stood silently at the kitchen entrance. I didn't move aside. Seeing that, I refused to speak. Li Ruoyan panicked and walked up the stairs. She stopped at the doorway. "Yiwang, I kept this marriage position for you. Look, I'm still wearing the ring you gave me. I spent a fortune supporting your career. I stayed because you looked like him. Yewang, I've searched for you for so long. I really missed you. Can we start over again?" Tears slowly rolled down Li Ruoyan's face. The wind scattered her hair, making her look even more fragile and heartbreaking. No, this was the first time I had ever seen someone treat Lu Ruoyan so coldly. The two of us were separated by only one door, yet it felt like we were thousands of miles apart. Liu Ruoyan finally broke down, crying, "I know I was wrong, but I never wanted to truly lose you." I let out a sigh. Then I walked out. I handed her a tissue. "Ruoyan, we can't go back. From the moment you erased every trace of me from your life." I decided I would never turn back, but I still held on to a little hope. Even if you had sent me a single message the next day, or made one phone call, I would have immediately turned around and returned. But you didn't. Li Ruan's tears fell faster and faster. My eyes also turned red. I studied acting. I know there are some eyes that cannot lie. You said it was love at first sight. But when you first saw me, I could already tell from your eyes that you were seeing someone else. The reason I stayed by your side was because I was the one who truly fell in love with you. I kept telling myself that if I treated you twice as well every day, you would eventually forget the past. Li Chuan is my younger brother. He was there that day too. I was choosing your birthday gift. The day I begged you to stay was your birthday, at the beginning of our time together. I even thought that if you just posted one thing about me online, or left any trace proving I existed, I would have happily run back to you. But you didn't. You only posted about your new drama and your gatherings with friends, the events you attended, and the restaurants you visited. But there was never even the slightest trace of me. You said I existed in your heart. But the truth was, it was because you believed. Those people could never treat you as well as I did. After saying that, I turned around and walked back onto the stage. So, Liu Ruoyan, go back! We are impossible now. When Liu Ruoyan heard those words, she covered her mouth and cried in despair. She rushed forward, grabbing onto my clothes. Yiwang, I'm a celebrity. So many people love me. I was a little proud. I wanted to satisfy my vanity, you know? You once said you would always tolerate me. You wouldn't treat me like this, right? You still love me? Then we can start over. This time, I didn't even look at her. I simply moved the tissue toward Li Ruoyan. Then I walked in front of Bai Ningbing. Little brother, you two are different from us. Go back. I will support you. I will continue running the inn together with Bai Ningbing. She is willing to invest. How can that be? I won't let you two be together. That woman seduced you, didn't she? Liu Ruoyan completely lost control. She cried and shouted like she had gone mad. She stumbled around while crying. Shut up, calm down. Do you even understand how to respect others? What did her family ever do wrong to you? Keep making trouble and I'll send you to a mental hospital. Gu Qinghan rubbed his ear, then shouted angrily at Liu Ruoyan. Liu Ruoyan bit her lips. She cried in resentment, but no longer dared to speak. I turned toward Gu Qinghan and cautiously asked, Don't you always make trouble about this? Would you marry me? Gu Qinghan smiled mischievously. Without any hesitation, she gave me an answer that surprised me. Talking about publicly announcing our marriage had always been forbidden between us. I felt like I was a golden retriever she kept locked in a cage. She never made our relationship public. She never brought me to her home or into her social circle. You're surprised? Huo Jinhan held Duo and looked at me with interest. Even I thought you were just her substitute boyfriend. But look at you. How are you even similar to him? You're much taller than that trash. And you're much more handsome. Gu Qinghan mentioned Chang, then curled her lips. She looked completely unimpressed. My shameless father? Wanted me to marry into a wealthy family from the beginning. Besides gaining more benefits, he just wanted me to have more children, so they could inherit his fortune. He doesn't love me, but he would never let me leave. If I made you public, that old bastard would definitely come after you. He controls both the legal and underground worlds. I was afraid he would hurt you. That's why I avoided this topic. Over these 2 years, besides searching for you, I invested heavily into IVF laboratories. Finally, I gave him what he wanted. Naturally, he was willing to let me go. After saying that, she smiled warmly at me. Li Chuan, I used to be afraid of marriage. But countless times I imagined marrying you. I imagined what I would look like wearing a wedding dress. But I'm not Lu Ruyan. If you don't want this, I'll turn around and leave. Gu Qinghan continued speaking while drinking soda. The next second, I pulled her into my arms. Then I kissed her. My identity as an orphan made me insecure. Poverty limited the things I dared to hope for. So even during arguments, I thought every breakup was real. What man wouldn't be interested in someone who worked hard for him all night? It really can't happen anymore. Then I'm the right one for you, Yi Wang. All right, you've been caught. We're just stuck here. Who wouldn't like seeing you? Every morning after waking up, the first thing you do is shave. Who wouldn't like someone who carries a ring around and hangs it on a dog's collar? Because for me, as long as you are willing to marry me, I can propose to you any time, and Valentine's Day is coming soon.